With the exception of the popular efforts made by the Conference for Palestinians Abroad to hinder the rapid Israeli efforts to hold a major conference next October entitled the Israeli-African Summit in Togo, we have barely seen any official or popular Arab efforts in this direction. This is despite the great danger posed by convening such a summit, which Israel has been laying the foundations for several years, in light of the almost complete absence of the Arabs, which is an unprecedented development in Israel's tireless efforts to bypass the wide wall of isolation and moral rejection it faces in Africa. It aims to present itself as a trusted partner for the continent's nations. The Conference for Palestinians Abroad viewed this summit, rightly so, as an insult to the struggles of the African nations and a disregard for their generation's fair fight for liberation from colonization and racism. It is also an attempt on the occupation government's part to portray itself as a trusted partner for the African countries in order to fabricate its reality. It is not coming to Africa in order to spread love and unity, but instead aims to make Africa a market for the lethal products it produces and a place to export its mercenaries to help the dictators of the continent. This is despite the fact that the African nations' true interests and their efforts towards sustainable development, prosperity and growth do not align with the colonial racist occupation government in Palestine, given its record of hostility and terrorism. This is documented by several international and independent reports, including the ESCWA report regarding the escalations of the Israeli apartheid policies issued this year. In addition to this, Israel, which commits war crimes, mass killings, flagrant violations and intimidation methods, as well as confiscates the Palestinian people's land and resources and sponsors illegal extremist settler gangs, does not have the right to be a partner to developing nations seeking advancement, prosperity and the combat of terrorism. Read Israeli settler deliberately rammed car into Palestinian children. The efforts of the Conference for Palestinians Abroad are focused on mobilizing governments, official and popular institutions, parties, civil society organizations, public figures, community leaders and the media across Africa and the entire world, in order to rally the efforts against the Israeli government's actions. These actions are an attempt on Israel's part to promote itself in the continent in a misleading manner, ignoring the principles of justice, the people's rights and international laws and conventions. The conference summoned its efforts and began taking action, contacting concerned parties, especially the influential forces in the African nations, in order to confront Israel's attempts of exploitation and deception. These are commendable efforts, but of course they are not enough to stop this hateful and racist emergence in Africa. Putting an end to the conference is the duty of all African countries, organizations, committees, and people specifically, and generally the duty of the Arab and Muslim countries. This is because Israel's presence in the continent will not be in the best interest of the African people, but rather in Israel's interest as it exports death, mercenaries and tyranny to all the countries of the world. It also supports the totalitarian regimes that commit the ugliest forms of aggression, looting and pillage. Therefore, resisting this conference and sabotaging it by all means available is the duty of all nations on earth. It is worth mentioning in this regard that the only Arab action against the convention of this summit was by the President of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, during his visit to Khartoum in July 2016. In his meeting with Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir, Abbas raised the issue of developing the Arab strategy in the African continent and cooperating in order to stop Israel's attempts to achieve a breakthrough in Africa. Read Israel's dirty trade in Africa. We do not expect Sudan or the PA to do anything now, as it is too late and their political diplomatic capabilities are limited. Moreover, their problems and misfortunes are too many to count, according to the former Egyptian ambassador to Angola, Sao Tome and Niger, Belal al-Masri, who, in an important article published on the Democratic Arab Center website, listed 5 reasons why the Israeli summit in Africa is dangerous. These points should be considered and reflected upon, the most important of which is the fact that the conference's purpose is to restore and develop the African voting bloc in order to use it to support Israel's international status. Israel views the countries of the African continent as a voting bloc consisting of at least 50 votes. This was confirmed by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to 7 African leaders with whom he met in Rwanda in July 2016. He also reiterated this in his speech to the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS Summit in Monrovia in June 2017. Hence, his statement regarding Israel having a bright future in the UN during his speech before the UN General Assembly at its regular session in September 2016, wasn't too far from the truth. He also stated that his main diplomatic goal was to stop the African states from automatically voting against Israel at the UN and that the day he would achieve this isn't too far. Therefore, holding the Israeli summit in Africa will mark the end of the Egyptian and Arab role, in general, in Africa, and Israel will join the international forces competing for influence in the African continent. These countries include China, the United States, France, India, Russia, Iran, and recently, Turkey. It is not an overstatement to say that the Israeli conference in Togo will pave the way for Israel to reoccupy Africa, or at least a large part of it, politically, economically, and militarily. This will further strengthen Israel's international and regional standing, and increase the suffering of the Palestinian people, who are paying the price for the fragmentation of the Arab system and their preoccupation with resisting the effects of the Arab Spring revolutions. This article first appeared in Arabic in Al Arabi Al Jadid on the 10th of August 2017.